la famille.
Taavet, I invite you to come with me. So, of course, I'm going to have a conversation with Taavet, 30 minutes, I think. I have read a lot of questions that you've asked online, but we will save like 15 minutes for you to ask any question that you want. First, I'm very happy to have you here. It's an honor because he told me that he said no to 99% of the email he received of invitation to conferences. So I feel super blessed. Thank you very much, Taavet.
It's a pretty cool space you've built here, so it's very fun to be here. Thanks.
Can you tell us about the very beginning of TransferWise? You are you are the first employee of Skype, you're working in London, you need to send some money in Estonia, and that's a lot of frustration. It's a nightmare for you.
Yeah, so it really goes back to a personal problem and a personal pain. So in about 2007, 2008, I was working for Skype and I made a move to London, but I was still getting paid out of Estonia. So every month I had to go and walk to my bank in Estonia, stand in line, and then, I go to the bank and they're like, yeah, hello, Mr. Taavet, we're happy to transfer your money to London. We're only going to charge you 25 euros for it. Oh, it sounds like an okay deal. So, I do it, I fill in the paper forms, and I send some money over, and then I go to my bank in London. I take my account statement and I look at it, and first of all I realize that the money took 4 or 5 days to arrive. Come on, we're in the 21st century. We've built Skype, and there's this green button. You press it, and you get immediately a video call across the world. So how can it take 4 or 5 days to move money around the world? That's kind of like, starts smelling a little bit of bullshit. And then the next thing is I look at my account statement and I see that when I sent 1,000 euros, I was expecting to receive 800 pounds. But in reality, I got like 740, 750, 760. So I realized that banks are using an exchange rate which is very different to the exchange rates that I can see when I go to Bloomberg or Reuters or Financial Times. That's where I kind of learned that banks in total are charging between 5 and 10% to make a very simple international transfer, while in reality, it can't cost them half of that. It costs them 1% of that. So it all started smelling pretty bad and making me feel relatively frustrated.
So you gather with your friends in London, Estonian people, Estonian friends, and you shared all the same problem, and you started bootstrapping with a chat room on Skype, saying, okay, I have this amount to exchange. Let's try to match your currency that you want to exchange and make it symmetrical with the one in Estonia, from pounds to euros.
Yep, very true. So literally, we had a Skype chat with a bunch of friends who were similarly splitting their life between Estonia and London. And in the chat, I'd say, hey, I need to send 1,000 euros to London, and somebody said, yeah, I need 800 pounds. So, we would do it that way, and we would make a local transfer, which is free and fast. But the whole system was really built on trust. It was a group of 5 people, and we knew each other very well, and we could trust each other. That when I say that I'm going to make a transfer, I actually will make it. Yeah,
totally. So this will last somehow 6 to 9 months, and then you get the approval from the UK regulation to actually do this to more people.
So actually, what happened is that we started thinking about it, and we realized there are few hundred million people who are either living, working, or studying abroad, and we realized that we can do something to help these people. We can make a tiny change in their life, makes their life a little bit better, makes the world a tiny bit better if we give them a similar way to move money across country borders in a very easy to use way, very low cost and very fast way. So that's kind of, we realized that we can build a product which will help a bunch of people, and we set out to build it in a very MVP kind of way. So essentially we're 2 options. One option is we start writing business plans. We write a long business plan. We go knock on investors' doors, and lots of people tell us no, and lots of people want to hear more, and end up spending 12 months doing that. Or we realized, we can be kind of much more action-oriented and pragmatic, and we can just go ahead, build an MVP and see if people are actually willing to trust two Estonians with their money. If people are willing to use an online way of doing this. So we did all that. We got ourselves the first license, and then we were kind of like feeling kind of special that we're ready. We have an MVP, and thinking what do we do next. And one of our friends knew a journalist at TechCrunch, and then we reached out to that guy and told him the story. And next thing what happens is he writes an article where he says, TransferWise is a Skype of money transfer. And 15 minutes later, the first guy sent us £2,000. That was a moment of
15 minutes later, you received your first customer.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we got this £2,000, and we were like, shit, what are we going to do now?
So that's how you started. So no money at the beginning, still an employee at Skype.
No, I wasn't at Skype anymore, and but both me and my co-founder Christo, we were both working. So like he had to hide underneath his desk to take customer support calls and so on. But it's the reality is that to go through the beginning and to build an MVP, you don't need much money for that. All you need is you need a bit of discipline. It comes down to really you taking some time, or maybe getting a few friends involved who will help you and go ahead, build the prototype, see if anybody is willing to use this. Otherwise, you're just going to waste so much time trying to fundraise based on a shitty business plan.
Okay, basically the peer-to-peer pitch at the beginning totally moved and just shift, because right now you're not anymore talking about this peer-to-peer thing. At the end, it's money transaction from a country to another.
Yeah. So when we launched the site, we described it as a peer-to-peer currency exchange. To be honest, I'm not quite sure what peer-to-peer currency exchange means, but that's kind of how we described it. We very quickly realized that what we're doing is we're in the money transfer business, so we're helping people move money from one country to another. And we realized by talking to our customers, we realized that what's really important for them is that it's cheaper, it's faster, it's transparent and much easier to use than the alternatives. And then kind of based on that, we started talking about us as money transfer. We also realized what's the competition. So by asking our customers, what did you use before for it, we realized that most people used banks before it, some used Western Union, so we were kind of able to zoom in on the enemy. That's banks, and it really is, it's not that we have anything against banks, but we have a lot against the ways they do business and kind of hidden fees and no transparency. It's kind of we're against the behavior they exhibit, not banks as institutions so much. And then we, by learning that, we started kind of thinking about how do we talk about us better. And another interesting thing which came from there is. We launched a service transferring pounds to euros, euros to pounds between Estonia and UK. But very quickly, people started coming to us saying, "Hey, we've heard that you TransferWise guys are doing a great service for pounds and euros. I want to send money to US, I want to send money to India, to Nigeria," and that got us thinking that we knew that we are going after a global problem from day one. And we knew that, okay, sending money to US, we will also start sending money from US at some point. But when we think about more emerging markets like Nigeria, like India, there will never ever be matching money flows between these countries. But that kind of, gave us a push to think, okay, so if what we're doing is we're providing our customers cheaper, faster, better, customers don't really care that much about peer-to-peer. We thought, okay, by now we've learned how we can do cheaper, faster, better, also for non-peer-to-peer routes. And so, kind of, three years ago, we started also launching these one-way routes, and now you can send money to more than 50 countries, and we'll have 95% coverage of the world in terms of destination in the next 12 months. And it doesn't really matter if it's peer-to-peer or not. We love peer-to-peer. That makes our life much easier. And between larger currency pairs like dollar, pound, euro, it is majority peer-to-peer. But even in peer-to-peer, it never matches up perfectly. So you always kind of need to be able to process transactions if you don't have perfect liquidity.
So the lesson that we can learn from this is that you're always on the side of the user. and you shouldn't, the user shouldn't feel the problem at all. So finally, you will have a special relationship with the banks. Sometimes they are your haters, and sometimes they can be actually your partners, because you can make deal with the bank to actually exchange the currency and make it seamless for the user.
Yeah, I mean, we work with more than 50 banks or financial institutions, and I can tell you honestly that we haven't threatened any of them. They all work with us because they like what we're doing. They like that they can earn some fees on it, and our larger partners, we pay them a 7-digit amount every year, and everybody's pretty happy with that.
Would you say that you educate them in a way?
We do. Whether they learn is a different question.
Okay. So talking about the growth, like scaling really, really fast, I would like you to give us some insight about what it is to pitch the founder of PayPal, what it is to pitch Andreessen and Horowitz fund. If you could give us some tips about it. How did you get connected with them, and what did you ask them? When did you ask to invest?
As we were talking earlier, when we first launched the business, we realized that we can do that without needing a lot of money. So kind of going fundraising would only be a distraction. So we're much better off actually focusing on building the service, proving out that we can do what we dream of doing, and we can actually build a service which is valuable and what customers love. So we did our first fundraising about a year after having launched TransferWise. So we had real customers to show. We could show the repeat usage. We even had tiny revenues, and then we raised $1.3 million seed round. When raising the seed round, we were kind of really thinking about it as building an extension of our team. So kind of thinking of a 360-degree view that, we need somebody here who knows about payments, we need somebody who knows about banking. It'll be great to have an anchor investor in the UK where we're based, because that gives us support here. And we put together around more than 10 investors led by a fund called IA Ventures from New York. So
you went to see most of your investors are US based, right?
Yeah, we've actually most of the money we've raised is from US, and
they were able to understand the pitch of totally disrupting the bank industry rather than making money from day one.
Absolutely, and I think that's something which US investors are probably much more comfortable with, kind of taking a much more longer term bet. Also if you think about payments as an industry, it is an industry which works on scale. So if you get to scale, you can have a fantastic business which is having a huge impact on customers and also financially successful. But you need to get to critical scale for that.
Yeah, and it's funny because they could understand a product where it's a currency problematic, whereas they don't know, they don't feel, they don't undergo this problem in the US.
Yeah, true. I mean, I think the investor base we have is probably relatively international in their essence. So they have seen other currencies around, unlike the population of the States at large. But I think what convinced them really is about having a huge problem, having a team with some credentials, and then showing them that we're making early progress.
For Andreessen Horowitz, I know that the first moment you came to pitch them, they asked you to move to San Francisco, which wasn't making sense at all for your business. So you refused.
Yeah, we met Andreessen Horowitz kind of accidentally. When we were raising our Series A, and we knew that they don't invest in Europe, so we didn't actually plan on meeting them. But quite accidentally, we got introduced over the weekend, and then when we showed up at 6 p.m. on Monday, we had the whole partnerships there. We gave them our pitch and showed what we're doing, and we get a call back next day and say we're super impressed. And they were like, yeah, we'd write you a decent check, but there's one condition: you have to move to California. But for us, it made 0 sense to move to California. We had great early traction in Europe. We knew the problem is probably on a relative basis slightly bigger in Europe because there are more international people in Europe than US. I mean, absolute scale, US is the biggest market. And so we said, hey, thanks guys, we great meeting you, and you're a bunch of smart folks, but for us it makes no sense to move to US.
Yeah, and finally you met them a second time, and then it worked.
Yeah, and then that was during our Series A, and then 2 years later when we were raising our Series C, I gave Ben Horowitz a call, and he was like, yeah, come do a partner presentation, and from there on it was a very smooth journey, and they kind of realized that what we spoke about 2 years ago, is what we have very much delivered, and they also realized that we've built a business already, and we don't need that much adult supervision, so it's okay if we're in Europe. So we ended up being their first investment outside of the US, and I believe they're pretty happy about it.
And I'm wondering if having some of these great investors backing you, it means more than money. It means backing you and supporting you in your ambition, in your will to grab all the markets, and being focused on doing something really big. Talking about TransferWise, you can read online, yes, but the business model isn't profitable, yes, but they are not yet break even. And what do you answer to these people? And I relate this to the fact that you are backed by Silicon Valley VCs, because I think they can help you to focus on your vision. Can you explain us?
If I think about last round and recent Horowitz round, I mean, they made the investment believing that this company can grow to be 10 or 100 times bigger. So that's kind of, in that sense, we are super well aligned in our vision, and we know very well that we're really at the very beginning. Success means that we grow our market share from 5% in UK to 15-20% in UK, and do that in the next 50 countries as well. So we're still just getting started. So at this point, it is completely useless to focus on the noise from the outside world and what people are saying or telling. We know very well what we need to do, and we're dead serious and focused about achieving that.
Great answer. Can you talk a little bit about being the first employee at Skype and how this experience can help? Because you were in telco, now you are in finance, in the banking. What did you use in terms of analysis of these two sectors that are being totally disrupted? And how it's been easier for you, and what did you use in your day-to-day job that you've learned from this previous experience?
I think the biggest thing from Skype really is being part of a journey which tells you that anything is possible. So we built Skype in the outskirts of Tallinn in old Soviet buildings. We started out, it was a team of, we were less than 10 people, mostly software developers, building something which completely has changed the way we communicate. Skype kind of brought about the change in video communication. The idea that the world is much smaller than you think it is. And Skype now owns 40% of international long-distance calling. And all of that, despite the fact that I think the company, has failed. No, it's a bit too harsh to say Skype failed, but I think Skype definitely has not fulfilled its ambitions the way that Niklas would have wanted, or other people from the early team. But kind of seeing that you can start with a couple people anywhere in the world and build something which has a huge impact on the world, that's a very motivating experience. And I know after that, going to get a job to work from 8 to 5 to sound very kind of
impossible.
Very, very, very meaningless. When you see you can do something which has impact. So from that point of view, TransferWise is a continuation of the Skype journey. In Skype, we made communication across country borders possible, and really kind of the idea is that you press this green button and you get instantly a high definition video call connected around the world. Is like, okay, that makes perfect sense now. Why can't I move money in the same kind of with the same simplicity? So it's we're trying to make the world smaller. We've solved communication, now we want to solve money.
You're really focused on customer care through TransferWise. Can you explain us why it makes a difference and how you do it and how you focus on this?
Very early on, we started learning a lot from our customers. The whole idea is that we're not a peer-to-peer currency exchange, but we're providing money transfer, and why people care about it is because we're cheaper, we're faster, we're more transparent. So it all came by speaking with customers. We also quickly realized that trust is a major issue, and people would call up our support just to kind of find out, is this a real company? Do you guys really exist? And kind of combining that with the fact that banks are known for notoriously bad customer support. Kind of it made sense to have an excellent customer support experience, and at this day we're incredibly proud of our support. We answer calls in 15 seconds, and people leave our support kind of raving about the experience. It's not hard to do. I just don't know why aren't more people doing it. All you need smart, educated people answering the phone, answering emails, being a human being, not being a robot in the Philippines. It's not that hard. It's not also that expensive. And I spent an hour in customer support last week speaking with 5 customers. It's amazing actually.
You still do that?
I try to do it as often as I can, and the whole team. We had our company all hands meeting where everybody flew to Estonia in January, 500 people, and we actually had a Skype call with a customer on stage, which was I think for many people that was the most kind of special moment, seeing a customer who was absolutely raving about what we do. And let's be honest, it's actually inherently there is nothing sexy about money transfer. It's a very kind of boring utility, but we're able to do it in a way that customers go away with such a kind of an emotional feeling, because we just do it so differently compared to a bank.
Yeah, so they open the road for you actually by having so bad and so poor customer services.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about your country, Estonia. It's seen as a startup nation, actually. We've heard that they are doing tons of innovation and that there are a lot of startups growing there. Have you been involved into helping the government to make it flawless also? So if you think about this tiny place in the middle of nowhere with people who are incredibly bad communicators. Finnish people who are our neighbors invented SMS because they don't like talking. That says quite a bit about Estonia as well. So it's I would say we come from a lot of disadvantages, but I think at the same time being a small country, the fact that we regained independence 20 odd years ago, meaning we could rebuild everything from scratch. Also combined with having the Skype success story, I do believe that success stories are incredibly important in entrepreneurship. All of that combined means that now we're the country which may have the largest number of startups per capita. There is we can see quite a few really meaningful companies which are being built in Estonia, and there is a Estonian local Skype mafia, and I think one of the signs of success for TransferWise will also be having a TransferWise mafia later on, and having early and not so early employees go on and start their own entrepreneurial journeys. And as a result of this now is a large number of startups
a local ecosystem which is pretty developed. But also we're starting to do pretty funky things, like think about, okay, so how do we kind of disrupt governments and governance? You know, given that we're tiny and we're located really far away, that nobody comes to Estonia, how do we give people around the world experience of being Estonian, which means kind of the same, cheaper, faster, better. So we have this e-residency program where people can become virtual residents of Estonia, so they can use our government services. So it's kind of a country as a platform, which is pretty exciting. And also, you know, the whole country is run in an incredibly digital way. So 99% of people do their tax returns online. The European Commission's Vice President for Digital Single Market is Andrus Ansip, who was the ex-Prime Minister. I'm an advisor to the current Prime Minister, who is, I think, a year older than I am, so he's 36. So, like, you know, he literally grew up with an iPhone in his hand. So I think all of that kind of helps.
Wow, so you're really, really involved, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we have our biggest office in Estonia. I go there at least once a month. And
so it's 500 people now. You have offices a bit everywhere. Where are you based, and how do you organize this big team of 500 people?
So today we have five offices. We have our biggest office in Tallinn. We have a small team in Ukraine. We have a team in Tampa, Florida, a team in New York, and a decent team in London. And by end of the year, probably we'll have maybe another up to 5 offices. So, you know, we have a couple people already in Tokyo, in opening up an office in Budapest, moving some people to Australia, and so on.
So when you go to a country, you need to understand the different regulation. So have you seen some good things, good tips in different countries, like countries that are more open to fintech disruptors?
I think a lot of countries are trying to jump on the fintech train right now. It was kind of with varying degrees of success. I think, you know, some people just talk about it, other people are more serious. But, like, you know, when we talk about Europe, and I think UK is a fantastic one, where the current government is very pro entrepreneurship, very pro digital. So I've been to number 10 Downing Street maybe 10 times over the past 3 years, and, you know, they're very driven to make sure UK, London specifically, stays as a European center for entrepreneurship and the world center for fintech.
So what does it mean? They have a close relationship with you?
So what it means is that the Prime Minister's office seriously listens to entrepreneurs, kind of making sure that there is a regular ongoing dialogue between the leading entrepreneurs, investors, and the government, listening and actually acting based on that. So when we look at fintech, there's been quite a bunch of regulatory changes which have come from these dialogues. The UK regulator was the first one to launch Project Innovate, which was specifically designed for startup companies to get through regulatory hurdles. And now that approach has been copied by Singapore, South Korea, and so on. So I think, and the other thing which this brings is, it brings legitimacy. You know, if the Prime Minister is dealing with this, is talking about this, this will make everybody believe that, you know, fintech isn't a bunch of crazy immigrants trying to steal your money. It's actually where the future of finance lies. You know, entrepreneurship isn't for people who didn't get a job in the local telco. It's actually, you know, what will be creating the future of jobs. So I think it's very important to have that visibility, you know. And in some ways, you know, maybe the most important thing is to have the visibility, and then, you know, we just need to make sure they don't try to screw anything up.
Yeah, totally. So here in this room, I guess you have a lot of young entrepreneurs who want to start their fintech startup. What kind of advice would you give them if you were talking to yourself when you were before starting your own company?
I think the most important thing is really getting started. So, you know, where I see most people fail is they kind of talk about wanting to do something, and then maybe they start by writing business plans, and you know, they get then when the first investor turns them down, they go and cry for 2 months and so on. It's it's in the world where we are today, coding should be the second language we all know, and for most of these services, building the initial MVP is not that hard. Validating that with customers, actually having the courage to go and speak to customers, and to get started that way. You don't need lots of money or time to make the initial to prove that what you're trying to do works. I think that's where most people stumble. From there on, possibly I do think that's the hardest thing. From there on, it gets easier. It's still many ways to stumble, and we know from statistics that the number of companies who go on to become real businesses is small. But even if you do your first company, you spend a year, you launch a product, you have some customers using it, you fail. The learnings you get are so tremendous, which means your second or third try will inevitably be much more successful.
Yeah, you invest a little bit in young startups.
Yeah, I've probably made 30 or 35 investments.
Yeah, and what convince you when you invest money?
Team. It's mostly about team.
And what are you looking for in the team?
People who have the attitude of going through the walls, but at the same time who are humble enough to not to get blinded by their ego.
A balance between determination and humility.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's go to the question. Who wants to ask a question to Taavet?
Thank you, Taavet, for sharing your experience. I actually have a lot of questions, but we're limited, so I'll ask one. As far as I know, you developed your idea while being at the INSEAD. Did it really help you being there? And how important it is to arrive there with an idea already, or start from scratch, maybe during your MBA program? I'm asking because I was admitted there, and I'm sure half of my future classmates will have your poster on their walls, looking at you every day. So do not say that INSEAD is a bullshit, because you're gonna ruin my life.
So
if you want to become an entrepreneur, then the best thing you do is don't pay the 55,000 euros of tuition and use that to start your business instead. INSEAD is a great experience, and I do recommend that, but you have to kind of dig a bit deeper to understand why people do it. People do it because it gives them career advancements. People do it because they want to have a vacation, not be a ski bum. Like, in my case, I dropped out of undergraduate when getting Skype started. Spent 7 years building Skype. I left Skype. I didn't have a clear idea what I want to do. I was actually, I was sad to admit it. I was considering becoming a VC, and I was kind of like choosing, going down the investor route or being an entrepreneur. And I thought, maybe there's something in education, and the chance to spend a year in Singapore in INSEAD, learn a bunch of things, have a great time. Well, pretty appealing. After 6 months, when we had our summer break, I did feel I'm done with it. So I don't know why anybody would go to a 2-year business school. But to be perfectly honest, did it give me an advantage for building TransferWise? Probably not. But I did have a pretty good network before, etc., etc. So from that point of view, maybe a bit of an unfair comparison. But I do, you can learn a bunch of things at INSEAD, but you can also learn these things from a book. If you know what you want to do, then you're much better off getting started right away instead of spending a year learning a bunch of other great things and partying.
That's what they're saying, yeah. But you're saying that you were choosing between two options. Did INSEAD help you to choose one, or you did it yourself?
I wouldn't say that it helped. I was kind of, I was working on a bunch of things and working through a number of different options while at INSEAD. So using that kind of as a, I didn't even not that much. So the only forcing function I had was that I knew that INSEAD will be over in December, and it would be cool to actually then work on something. So I launched TransferWise about 3 weeks later. But I was working on a number of different things throughout the INSEAD year, and kind of making progress on multiple fronts until choosing what to focus on in the end.
Hi, first of all, I'm a big fan of TransferWise. I use it very frequently to move money between places, so I can highly recommend it from experience.
Do you have any feedback?
My feedback is that it makes things so easy. The customer service and I've never had any problems. I haven't had to contact you because it was simple. Even when I've had to cancel a transfer for various reasons. But no, it's very, very helpful and saved me a lot of money. So thank you, first of all. And also, I'm a huge fan of Estonia. I first went 7 years ago to Tallinn and Tartu, and I think I think the Estonian spirit and culture kind of infuses a lot of the startups there. So my question for you is actually on company culture. Do you think that you are creating an Estonian culture within TransferWise, or is it something that's just more international based on experiences in a wide variety of places? Thank you.
There are definitely Estonian elements in our culture which are very strong, thanks to me and my co-founder Kristo. But at the same time, it's it's important to understand we're building a global business, so we need to be. We need to appeal and be able to work with people from everywhere. But I think the Estonian things are being incredibly straightforward. We have probably very little politics and bullshit today. So, and that's stuff which can be shocking to some people. But I think once you get used to it, it feels pretty easy and helps us move forward much quicker than maybe in other cultures which are more, I don't know, consensus building or even more just talkative.
Hello. You had very harsh words for Bitcoin, describing it as a money driven by greed. Is there really no hope that it helps building a simpler money transfer experience?
Can you repeat the last part of it? Is there really no hope?
That it has building a better money transfer experience?
No, there is no hope. I mean, sadly, I can't quite see what problem Bitcoin is solving today. It's easy to see that in a world where everybody had a Bitcoin wallet on their phone, and we would have no need for currencies. It would be amazing. We could transact for free and quickly. But how do we get from a world where nobody has a Bitcoin wallet to that world has been a puzzle for me. And if you look at Bitcoin today, yes, in theory it's great, but I have to buy Bitcoin on one side of the transaction, which is a slow and cumbersome process and probably ends up costing me 1% or a few percent. Then the transfer from here to Argentina is yes quick with Bitcoin, but in Argentina I have to find somebody who wants his Bitcoin who's going to give me real currency for it, and they'll charge another percent or few and takes another few days. So I actually, I know of another company called TransferWise which does that in a much quicker and much more seamless way. And also today most people who have Bitcoins have bought them because they have this fear of missing out, that it's the next gold or something which will only keep on going up in value. Careful observers will have noticed that the value of gold has also been going down recently, and same with Bitcoin. So I kind of feel that the momentum for Bitcoin as such has lost, and I'm having a hard time seeing how that will ever become a mass market solution.
Hello, Taavet. Thank you for sharing your experiences. I have a question about your partnerships. You just made a partnership with number 26, European new bank. What kind of partnerships are you looking at your stage of development now?
So number 26 is an new online bank in Germany, and I believe they're also live in France and probably will conquer Europe and the whole world soon. We also have launched with another bank called LHV, and a number of other things in discussion. So the reason we do it is because we realize that as much as we want everybody in the world to come to TransferWise, there are people who never come to TransferWise directly. So we need to go to where the customers are to offer them the TransferWise experience, insights or existing tools, companies, products. And we're very excited to talk to more banks, to talk to other distribution partners who have users for whom they are serving other financial needs. So anything in this area is interesting for us.
Hello, Taavet. I'm Sebastian, and I'm a co-founder of a startup. I guess your success is quite obvious, and the product market fit and everything, and it makes everything looks very glory and shiny, but I guess it has not always been the case. Maybe can you share some challenges that you've been through in the beginning, especially with regards to your co-founder, your team, or the vision, maybe?
No, I think it's early to say that we have been successful. I honestly believe that we're still at the point of getting started, and if we think about what we've achieved now and what there still is to achieve, we are just getting started. And I think the bigger challenges are always lying ahead, and the harder mountains to move are still ahead. The journey to building a company is an incredibly hard and frustrating one, where every day and week you have to battle with new demons, either inside yourself or outside. I think probably the biggest challenges are always, I think, people challenges. How do you build the best team? How do you make sure that your team keeps on evolving as the company needs? So today, when we're 500 people, we need different kind of people than when we were 50 people. There are people who are probably thinking now that, back in the good old days, things were so much easier, and the best thing we can do, sadly, is wish these people good luck and farewell, and go find a company which is 50 people. Inevitably, everything is going through a constant change, and yourself and people in the team need to be adapting and changing with it.
Good evening, Taavet. My name is Loon. I would like to ask you a question about, you were talking about the importance of teams in a project, and I would like to know, at the very beginning of the TransferWise adventure, were you looking for a specific kind of profiles or particular personality traits in the people who were applying for jobs at TransferWise? And will you have any recruitment advice for all the entrepreneurs in the room? Thank you.
It depends a little bit in terms of what roles you're looking for. There's a difference between the personality and skills you need in someone who is working in customer support and payment operations versus engineering. But I think some of the things we've found successful is being results oriented. I believe there are two kinds of people. There are people who like to get shit done, and there are people who like to talk about getting shit done. Sadly, with the last group, there is nothing you can really do. So, making sure that you are able to select people who have a bias for action and who enjoy getting things done I think is incredibly important. Another big one is about ego. So egos are sadly things which can get in the way in a huge way, and you really wanna make sure you find people who don't have egos that get in the way. So kind of humble people. Obviously, focus. Smart people in general is always a good idea to hire. When it comes to recruiting, so trying to think how did we hire our first people. Actually, all kind variety of channels. Probably hard to say. Depends very much where you are and what people you need. We hired some of our best people who just kind of applied on LinkedIn. Some people came in through referrals, and then at some point we ended up needing to build a recruiting machine, and we were onboarding 20 new employees twice a month. So that's kind of all, constantly keeps on changing. But as a founder, recruiting will probably always be one of your key roles, and you can never give that up. Always be recruiting.
Good evening. Thank you very much for your talk and the success. The phrase I'd like to latch onto is the one where you said coding should be our second language. One can imagine the millenniums, the X and Y's, all being coding. But what is the future or the need for people 40, 45, 50 to learn coding, and what is the value they can bring to the market and to this environment?
I probably haven't thought about this as much as some of the other topics. I think it kind of goes back to the mindset of the people. The world around us is changing quite rapidly. So if you can't adapt, then I think the older people will have slightly more challenges. And as a society, we need to think about how can we help them, and how can they be most useful, and so on. At the same time, I think when we're talking about dynamic people who can adapt and want to learn, then I don't think age really matters. It's really more about your mindset and how you view the world rather than your age. We have people who are approaching 50 in our team, and can't say that they're in any way different to the 18-year-old.
Hi, Taavet. Thank you for your talk. I was just wondering, what does prevent companies like PayPal or other companies in this sector to compete with TransferWise?
Just one word: greed.
Thank you.
PayPal charges between 4 and 5% for foreign exchange. Probably, especially as a new public company, it would be painful for them to give it up. Same thing with many banks. HSBC earned $840 million from fees on money transfer last 2014. If they hypothetically, if they were to work with a TransferWise-like solutions, they would earn 10 times less money. It's really about going through that hard digital transformation where you change your cost structure to be able to live in such a world. And if you are an existing incumbent, no matter what you do, if your revenues will drop 3x over the next 10 years, you got to work incredibly hard to keep it flat, to introduce new services or do something of value add to your customers. So essentially, it kind of comes down to the innovator's dilemma that for these people, it's very hard to give up what they're earning today, and that's what prevents them from lowering the price. And on the other hand, the service we offer is cheaper, but it's also better. We're building our own network, which enables us to move money very quickly from anywhere in the world to anywhere in the world, and do it for a very low cost. Companies, banks, and many others, they mostly use Swift, and Swift is a pretty pretty clumsy way for moving money. So I think we have a product which is better, and we are selling it for a lower price. So I feel pretty strong about our competitive position from this angle.
Hi, Taavet. I'm Tristan. Thank you for sharing your story. And as I'm doing the telecom to fintech move as well, your story inspires me a lot. Going further in competition, so you talked about the big guys, but I guess the place is getting crowded with new players trying to disrupt and have a very aggressive position. So how do you think you're going to keep up against the competition, and what is the challenges and the vision for your company?
We'll keep up the very same way which got us here, by really focusing on our customers and making sure we're doing something for which they are grateful to us. So money transfer is a pretty large field. Between $5 and $10 trillion moves across country borders every year. So our share of that is still tiny. So by doubling down on our strengths, focusing on speed, on cost, focusing on ease of use, we'll be moving from 5% market share in UK to 15%, and then bringing the next countries up to 5%. We have achieved significant economies of scale, which are hard to compete unless you are operating the same scale, and we're still growing pretty fast. So anyone who is starting today has to do something an order of magnitude better than us, or in some other way run so much faster to catch up to where we are today. So from that point of view, yes, I mean there are a million ways how we can fuck it up, but if we don't do something which is incredibly stupid, then I think it's hard to get ahead, to catch up just by doing the same thing. Yeah. So the real interesting thing now here is, so what's the thing which can disrupt us? So that's what we'll come back and talk about in a couple years.
Hi Taavet, my name is Nikhil. Thanks for your talk and for answering the questions that everybody had. Well, my question is more regarding the team at TransferWise and the culture that you have. Your team is very decentralized. What are your challenges personally that you face when you have to manage a decentralized team? Because I've heard that each part of the team takes his own decisions. How do you sort of manage that?
That comes down mostly to making sure we all have a shared vision of where we need to go to. So if everyone understands where we need to go to, that means people can take a lot of decisions themselves, and that you can trust they will choose the right things. So I'm kind of less worried about this. I think the thing which I am worried about, I don't know how much Nilan spoke about it yesterday, but the challenge is a lot of teams will end up optimizing for their local maximum. So you need to kind of think about which are the things where local maximum doesn't get you beyond the next hill, which will only get you to the next hill. So I think that's where the kind of the flaws of this come out, and that's what we're kind of busy thinking about. So where do we have these local maximums which are great to achieve, but on the great scheme of things might not be that important. Also the trouble with this kind of structure is teams. Very rarely you have teams who can self-destruct. So a team. It's hard to find a team who has the courage to say, we've done everything we can here. We should break apart and do something else. So these are things where you still need moderation or other kind of impact. But we're learning as we're growing. I think also maybe different phases of the company's life need different things. We know there are areas in operations where we need to we just need to be increasing our efficiency, more economies of scale, and these will require different goals and different way of managing it compared to areas where we are innovating and where you really want to make sure that teams can move as fast as they can and be as self-contained as possible.
Hello, Jean-Brice from Infinix. Just going back to your business. Today you are allowing money transfer to mainly a bank account, and I was just wondering what's your strategy in unbanked countries or highly unbanked area? How do you plan to invest this economic zone?
So I believe that unbanked world is becoming banked. So there are 100 million bank accounts being opened in India every year. So it will only take us 10 years for everyone to have a bank account in India. If we look at various parts of Africa, they might not have a bank account, but they will have a mobile wallet they might be using. So we just need to be smart and look at whatever is carrier in any country which they're using. And make sure we can send money to and from that. But also, we don't love cash, but I wouldn't be surprised if in some country we're gonna see what happens if we do cash deliveries. So, we're just so far when we prioritize things, it's always been that adding another country with a bank account has made more sense for us. At some point, we'll see that delivering cash in Philippines will be the next obvious thing to do, and there's nothing religious in our DNA which will prevent that.
Good evening, Taavet. My point is regarding your partnerships. You said you would eventually be interested in the companies that could disrupt you in the years to come. And I'm actually interested on how did you get your actual partners, which are the banks, to work with you and see you as an opportunity rather than a threat when, as you said, you're actually just starting and you could be an interesting concurrent in the upcoming years.
So if you think about a typical bank, we work with one hand of the bank. We're a customer of the payment processing business banking division. We pay them fees, and the guy who gets to book that revenue is super happy with us. And on the other hand, there is a retail bank, and we are taking away fees from there, and that guy probably is less happy with us. The reality is these two people never meet. And even if you think about it, if somebody is disrupting this side here, then would they rather have that money go to another bank or keep it in the bank here? So as long as there are multiple banks in any country, I don't see this being a problem for us. If it's a monopolistic situation, it's a bit tougher. But luckily the number of monopolies in the world is shrinking rapidly.
Hello, good evening. I just wanted to ask in terms of competition. Everybody talks about startups that could actually disrupt your model. Do you believe that in the future you might see competition coming from other big players and corporations such as Telkom, for example, that are going to and let's say get into the transferring money business? And do you see them as a threat or do you see them as future partners?
Both. So in that sense, a telco who has a massive user base, who has a financial billing relationship with them, they can do something similar. There's also a possible cooperation for us. The reality is in the future we'll probably see both. We'll see places and experiments where we try to do it in cooperation. We'll see others trying to do it and compete with us. Great thing is that if you choose a very large problem to solve, there's room for both.
All right. Thank you very much, Taavet. It was a good time with you. Thanks to all of you. So I hope you find it really interesting. I found it. Stay here, talk together, exchange. I'm sure you have tons of stuff to talk about. Maybe your next founders is in this room. So enjoy. Thank you very much.
Que la famille. Que la famille.